Welcome to Monday Retsene with Pretoria Psychologists, your one-stop psychoeducation channel. This month of March, we have been talking about the healing journey. I think you have heard me in the previous episode where I was talking about what does that journey entail, or how can we take steps to get to the healing journey or restoration. I spoke about acknowledging our emotions. I spoke about forgiveness. And I also want to just repeat it again and saying, when I talk about forgiveness, I'm not talking about something that is very light or that we can take lightly. It's something that is very hard to do for most people. But most of the time we find that as people start to let go and forgive, that's where they get their full restoration and their full healing. Today, I'm going to continue on that and saying, as part of our healing journey, as we have seen, you have heard me speaking about acknowledging our emotions, it's also just to express those emotions, to express them in a safe environment. It could be with a trusted friend, it could be with a leader, it could be with a professionals like ourselves as psychologists. And this, we call it a form of, catharsis, or even externalizing the emotions, because sometimes you find that there's a lot of things that we have attached to ourselves. So a lot of guilt, a lot of shame around what we are dealing with, the trauma or the pain and the hurt that we are dealing with. But by expressing it, we are externalizing it, and therefore it does not become part of our identity, it does not form our identity. I will take, for example, which is something of my own story, in a setting of, or a context of sexual abuse or rape or molestation, where for me, I had taken up a lot of shame and a lot of guilt around what had happened to me as a child. And I remember, I was in the very same premises about 3 or 4 years ago, just watering the garden, quite relaxed. And I was thinking to myself, why am I protecting this man? Why am I the one who is carrying the shame and the guilt around what had happened to me 20 some years ago? At the time, it was about 20 years ago. So now it's about 23 years ago. And that's when then I thought, let me tell. And I wrote the story on Facebook. By the way, he had, friend requested me 7 years prior, this particular man who had molested me while I was still about a teenager, around 13, 12 years of age. And, I never accepted his friend request until that time when I, accepted his friend request and then tagged him in the story. And I wrote everything. I wrote, how I felt about the incident, and I wrote how I had carried the guilt for such a long time because I was trying to protect his image. I was trying to protect his dignity. I was trying to protect his, self-concept around the society. But I thought to myself, why am I the one who needs to protect him while he did not protect himself to start with? So I had carried that shame and guilt for the longest time, but by expressing it, and publicly so, Facebook, that's as public as you can get, and I did not even make it to be only friends to see that, but, as you open it to the worldwide. And that I was released from that guilt and from that shame that I'd carried for such a long time. And for me, that's when the healing journey started, because yes, I had spoken about many other incidences prior to before I got married, because I did not want that to be, a hindrance in my, identifying sex and being sexual in the marriage context as a negative experience because of what had happened. That was a negative experience. So I did not want to attach that. And that's when I disclosed back. But then with this particular man, because he was still around the church setting, he was still around our family lives, I had felt some form of responsibility to protect him. And as I said, once I had expressed that, then I was very free, and I was able to speak about it in other platforms, in many other platforms, and I speak about it openly. And obviously I had to take on that feeling, the whole aspect of forgiveness then, which is not an easy thing. I mean, I remember how I used to still dream about him, biting him, because that was the anger and the resentment that I'd carried all these years. Or, you know, so the anger will manifest itself in my dreams subconsciously, but I had to still keep on working on it continuously. The last thing that I want to speak about, you know, out of acknowledging the emotions and then expressing them so that you externalize it, that you don't internalize it and you don't attach it to your self-identity, is boundaries. And I think I will elaborate on that in other episodes as well. You have heard me speaking about boundaries in other contexts, but boundaries here in the journey of healing, sometimes as human beings, we expose ourselves to environments that triggers us. So this is like having a deep cut wound, and then yet you pass by a nail to keep on, you know, scratching you, to keep on opening up that wound. And that is why for some of us it takes a long time to heal, because we keep on being exposed to that same environment that we have been hurt in. Yes, as a child, I know you don't have a choice, but maybe to stay in that particular environment because you are vulnerable, you know, you don't have choices. But as an adult, you have a choice. If you find yourself that you keep on falling back into the same pattern of hurt, and I also talk about a pattern where we adopt patterns from childhood into adulthood, and if we have not worked through those things, we are unconscious. We do things subconsciously, thinking that, you know, we just not normal, or, you know, we're just going through something that is difficult to break. But when we bring it to the consciousness, we are able to identify it, to say, oh, this was the childhood pattern where I allowed people to do this, where, you know, I could not say no, and I let people take advantage. But when you are an adult, it's different. You know, you are able to say no, you are able to take up justice and mobilize justice for yourself. And so that's why I'm saying that sometimes we might need to even build boundaries around situations, circumstances, people especially, that triggers what has wounded us. With that, I know, you know, as I'm saying, it's something that I will still unpack, but I know it's also a difficult thing, especially when you are, let's say, in an abusive relationship, an intimate abusive relationship where your psyche has been broken, where somebody has told you how you are nothing, or you will never find somebody without them, or, you know, nobody else will love you, and they have really broken you, where you are unable to draw those boundaries and be able to separate yourself from that situation. But I think what I want to say is that different from when you were a child, you are an adult who is able to make choices that contribute meaningfully to your journey of healing. With that, this is me signing out for this month of March, as we have spoken about the journey of healing. And I'm hoping that that journey and the experiences that we have shared with you and my own personal journey can also form part of your personal journey of healing. With that, this is me, Ndala-Magoro, signing out. See you in the next month.